we choreographed how we were gonna hug on stage, and that was not how we drew it up.
That's how people hug, right?
It wasn't?
I think so, right? It's the first time for me. My name is Noah Giverson, and I am 1/3 of Facts Machine, a show by and for people who are curious about everything, but especially the things that make them laugh. In our show, we share the fascinating facts we've discovered and the larger stories behind them, concluding with a pub-style trivia quiz that, as we like to say, is loosely inspired by the theme, and tonight our theme is love. And we are joined by two beloved guests, Adam Rosenzweig and Dr. Paula Croxson.
Hello! Give it up!
From beloved to beguiling, we have host of the show as well, Dr. Rob Frawley.
Hello.
Now, Adam, you are a chemist, and I'm curious, at this Valentine's Day love-themed show, to know whether your study of the chemistry between molecules has helped you develop any chemistry with other people.
Well, I know that opposites attract, but I'm gay, so I don't have a boyfriend, and I guess that's why that is. Like repels like,
That's science.
It's a paper waiting to happen, yeah.
Well, all eyes are on you tonight, Adam, so let's see if we can find somebody. We'll see at the end of the show. So, Dr. Paula Croxson, you are a neuroscientist. You are a science communicator. You are a long-distance open water swimmer.
True.
What is the longest you've swam? Swum?
Swam or swam.
Okay.
28.5 miles.
Jesus. And to be clear, I happen to know this, but just for everyone here, what route did you take in that 28 miles?
I swam around Manhattan anti-clockwise.
Wow.
It's much harder the other way.
So I imagine you have to hit all the currents, just right.
That's why, yeah.
Okay. So we're not done with Paula's many incredible talents. In addition to neuroscientist and science communicator and open water swimmer, she's also a rock flutist. Is it flutist or flautist if it's a rock band?
It's flautist.
Okay, so it is. Okay, it's classical rock then.
But you have to say it in like a rock way.
Got it.
Like flautist.
Rock flout.
And then I suppose you're also a storyteller. With all of these incredible things that you have done and done so incredibly well professionally, are you thinking of adding any more to this list?
Just to clarify, very few of them are professional. No one's paying me to swim anywhere. Am I thinking of adding any more to the list? Well, so my cat is in the running to be America's favorite pet. So currently, I wasn't really thinking of it, but I just clicked a link on Instagram, and now I'm an official PR agent for a cat. So I guess that's the answer to your question. Was I thinking of it? No. Am I thinking of it every day now? Yes. Please vote for my cat.
That's good.
Come find me at the intermission, and I'll give you a
Absolutely.
QR code.
Yes. We'll be walking around at the intermission. When you're handing in your trivia, we will also walk around with phones that have QR codes so you can vote for Paula's cat.
And
finally,
if you've been voting for other cats, get out.
Yeah, out of here.
How dare you?
So, Rob, we've been doing this show together for a long time.
Years.
And I have forgotten what I was going to ask you. I think I was going to ask you whether, let's just see what comes out of my mouth. What's the cruelest way you've been broken up with?
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, believe it or not, it has happened.
No.
No,
Gasp.
yes, it was when someone was like, I think we should have lunch today, and they came over and they bought me lunch, and they were like this is never gonna work, and I wanted to buy you lunch, and they're like,
because I know you can't afford it, Rob.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
And their reasoning was like, I'm gonna have a lot of fun this year. I'm gonna have
what
so much
kind of fun?
Not lunch-based fun, that's for sure.
This lunch is the low point of my year, and I'm going on from there. Yeah.
Yeah, not so much sweet green, a little more sour green, right?
Yeah. I got free lunch, so.
Oh, that's pretty good. Well, I think we've established that we're all experts in love and other stuff, so. For our first love-inspired story of the night, please welcome to the mic, Adam Rosenzweig.
Yeah!
As Noah introduced, my name is Adam Rosenzweig. You can also call me Baby Girl.
Woo!
And so today I'll be kicking us off with a little story about the chemistry of love. And so I've decided to call it... Thank you, Kasha. All right, so I think it's pretty safe to say that we are all, as humans, we are love obsessed. Every society and civilization for thousands of years has come up with some explanation or understanding of a deity, of why we fall in love, how we feel love. We've also created every form of art possible, dance, poetry, movies, to express love. Nowadays, there's about 1,000 apps that you can use to like pull more love into your life or sex into your life or whatever. There's foods you can eat and products you can buy to make yourself more attractive and increase your sex drive. And then at the end of it all, we're also obsessed with what happens after love, after a breakup and how to get past it, how to let it go, etc.
Rob, you read that one, right?
Yeah. This looks like my.
You published that one.
You wrote it.
So it's safe to say that we are nigh obsessed with love, but perhaps even addicted to it. So just quick sidebar, while I was doing some research for this about different love myths, my favorite one that I came across is from Greek mythology called Plato's Origin of Love Myth. So I thought that I would do a quick, abridged, dramatic reading of this tale. And we'll set the mood. First, you must learn what human nature was in the beginning and what has happened to it since, because long ago our nature was not what it is now, but very different. The shape of each human being was completely round, with black sides in a circle, or back and sides in a circle. They had 4 hands each, as many legs as hands, and 2 faces. Yes, I'm gonna hold my arm like this the whole time. Exactly alike on a rounded neck. Between the 2 faces, which were on opposite sides, was 1 head with 4 ears. There were 2 sets of sexual organs, and everything else was the way you'd imagine from what I've told you.
That's a direct quote.
That's a direct quote. That's not me.
Anyone else having trouble imagining that?
In strength and power, therefore, they were terrible, and they had great ambitions. They made an attempt on the gods. I think I have a plan, Zeus said, that would allow human beings to exist and stop their misbehaving. They will give up being wicked when they lose their strength, so now I shall cut each of them in 2. At 1 stroke, they will lose their strength and also become more profitable to us, owing to the increase in their number. They shall walk upright on 2 legs.
When you say at 1 stroke, what do you mean?
Oh, you know what I mean. You know how Zeus gets down. Now, since their natural form had been cut in 2, each one longed for its other half. This, then, is the source of our desire to love each other. Love is born into every human being. It calls back the halves of our original nature together. It tries to make 1 out of 2 and heal the wound of human nature. Thank you.
The poor podcast audience that missed that.
I know.
Like Oscar-winning FX.
Yeah, is there a way to get that to them?
We'll figure it out.
In post.
People pay tickets. The podcast is free. This is what you get. This is what you get if you don't come to the show.
Just yelling at a podcast audience.
People in other countries, sorry.
People in a month are going to feel chastened.
So anyway, now that we know a little bit more about human nature, because we don't live in Greek times, unfortunately, we can beg the question, what is love? It's a good question.
Yeah.
So it comes down kind of to 2 things. So love is a collection of neural impulses activated by chemical compounds in our brains called neurotransmitters. Now, what I didn't think about is that most of the panel up here is neuroscientists. So if I get my facts wrong, that's going to be really embarrassing. So we'll see what happens.
It's actually worse if we don't notice.
Fair.
Because there are also neuroscientists in the audience.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, anyway. But for me, as a chemist and a chemical biologist, this is where I think the most interesting things happen, where small molecules and their interactions with our biology lead to big physiological changes, or in the case of emotions, big feelings. So this is sort of like my intellectual turn on. So speaking of turn ons, I want to begin our foray into the molecular basis of love by discussing a concept called docking. Now, please, everyone, raise your hand if you know what docking is. Okay. Would anyone feel confident from the audience offering an explanation as to what docking is? Any brave souls? Okay, we have this lady up here.
Hi. So Wow, when one person with a penis and another person with a penis love each other very much, they may feel so compelled to acquaint certain body parts in a very intimate, specific way. So they touch their dicks together, and should there be ample foreskin, perhaps it covers the other person's dick. Am I doing this right? Am I right? They touch their dicks together. Like, I don't know.
Here's a drink ticket for your
Hey!
for your trouble.
For your service.
I was talking about molecular docking, you
Wow.
pig. Okay. Don't know what you're on, but I was talking about molecules interacting with proteins, but whatever. So that aside, what I've presented here is a crystal structure of a dopamine receptor with a few molecules bound. We should focus on this guy going down and around here. So that is, to be technical, that is a dopamine agonist that is bound at the particular site of this protein where the neurotransmitter dopamine would bind. So let's talk about dopamine for a little bit. So it's a very small molecule, but a very important molecule in your brain, and it is associated with the activation of the brain's reward system. So it's released by stimuli, physical or emotional, that provide joy or pleasure, such as exercise and laughing and eating, and if you're me, doing all three at the same time when you have sex. So this is what provides for us, along with a cocktail of other neurotransmitters, the euphoric feelings of being in love. Yeah, there you go, pleasurable stimulation. All right, so if you're following along at this point, there are two main takeaways that we should be holding on to right now. So one is that molecules bind protein targets like a key into a lock, and it's important that those two things fit perfectly together to elicit a biological response. And then number two is that dopamine stimulates neural signals that give feelings of euphoria and amorousness, etc. So taking these two facts together, we can arrive at a question that kind of sits at the core of a lot of chemical biology, in particular medicinal chemistry, that is of interest to me as a chemist, which is, can we make a better key to this lock? That is the question that basically sits at the center of all drug development and design of different medicines and stuff. But in the case of dopamine, where we're stimulating feelings of love, what this question basically is can we design some kind of a love potion, more or less? So I'm very happy to say that such a thing exists, if you are interested. So let's talk about methamphetamines. So what we have here...
Something blue.
Something blue. Hey.
Married.
Hopefully not borrowed. So what we have here is methamphetamines. And so what methamphetamine is it is an agonist for dopamine, meaning that their structures are incredibly similar, and it can activate the same dopamine receptors in your brain. So if you have enough time in your day and a butane torch, you too can experience the joys of human love and affection without all of the hassle of being a likable person and going and finding a mate and developing deep emotional feelings. So of course there are some side effects to this. Side effects may include loss of sleep. It may include loss of teeth. But if you want to go the more organic route, there is another phenomenon that I'd like to talk about called love addiction. So technically speaking, love addiction is a pattern of behavior characterized by maladaptive, pervasive, and excessive interest towards one or more romantic partners, resulting in lack of control, the renounce of other interests and behavior, and other negative consequences. So this is a psychological condition, but it's fueled by emotional dependency and neurochemical addiction. So if you're me, you think that this is incredibly interesting because when it comes to drugs, and the effect that they have on our bodies, it's not so much the chemical dependence that draws us to them, but it's a feeling that we're chasing. And what's even more wild when you think about it is that all the compounds, all the drugs, in air quotes for the podcast, that we need to feel these feelings already exist in our body, and we can kind of achieve this feeling of addiction just with the hardware that we already have. And we're all kind of guilty of this. Love addiction, of course, being the most extreme example, but face it, we are addicted to love. Okay, cool. So we've all kind of experienced this thing in general sense is because we, as human, as a species that reproduces, we are biologically wired for love and attraction. It's how we find mates, and it's how we create more of ourselves. But it also explains a lot of the feelings and the deep emotions that we experience while we're going through the process of experiencing love. It explains why when you're falling in love, everything feels so amazing and awesome because it's neurochemically the same as like getting high. And it also explains why when we're broken up with or we dump somebody, it feels like shit because we're effectively going through a form of withdrawal. So that's sort of what all of this was building up towards. And it's a little bit of a note to end on. I'll be real. But I want to end on something a little more joyous. So I know that Valentine's Day has passed, but because we've learned so much tonight, next year, when you're all with somebody, present company included, I'm going to offer some Valentines that you can give them. So if you want to get creative, first, be dopamine. If you don't like that, you can go with, on a scale of 1 to meth, you're a 10. And then there's always poetry. The classic, roses are red, crystal meth is blue. I get a dopamine rush when I'm looking at you. Aww.
That's nice.
Let the music play.
Keep it going for Adam Rosenzweig.
I am Dr. Paula Croxson, and if reincarnation is a thing, then I'm going to come back as a penguin. 2 main reasons. I have big feet, and I'm more elegant in the water than on land. But
You're also very sharply dressed.
well, thank you. So are you. I don't know if sharply is the right word, but whatever. Anyway, but the other reason is because I love penguin love. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. So it turns out that penguins have amazing and interesting love lives. And my favorite penguin couple are chin-strap penguins, just like these guys here. And their names were Roy and Silo. And Roy and Silo became a couple in about 1998 in Central Park Zoo, right here in New York. Aww. And they got super close. They spent a lot of time together. And they started courting. And in case you're wondering what that looks like, I have a video of some closely related penguins here to play you. This is what penguin courtship looks like. So they get like a little cozy. They sidle up a little bit, a little wing touch. It's kind of sweet. It's going to get a little bit more raunchy in a little bit. So as you watch this, Silo and Roy, they engaged in their courtship. Then they engaged in some mounting and some mating behavior. Noah, I'm forgetting, Noah. What do they call it when 2 birds copulate?
A cloacal kiss.
A cloacal kiss, that's right. It culminated, it's not in the video, don't worry. It culminated in a beautiful, perfect cloacal kiss. They built a nest.
I really relate to how much of this courtship has them turning their back to one another.
Oh, it's like Rob's lunch all over again. So they built a nest and they waited eagerly for the egg to arrive, and it didn't arrive because Roy and Silo were both males. They couldn't produce an egg, so instead they rolled a rock into their nest and tried to nest that. And the keepers at Central Park Zoo noticed that they were doing this, and they were like, "Okay, maybe these 2 could be parents." So they gave them a fake egg. As like a test drive. Do you know it's much harder if you want to adopt, you have to go through all these hoops, right? So like they had to do a fake egg, and then they proved themselves with a fake egg, and then they finally the keepers assigned them a real egg from a penguin couple that were not having a lot of success at nesting it, and I still can't find out what that looks like. But anyway, they were bad parents, and Roy and Silo got the chick. But not to judge, they were just struggling, or something, I don't know. Anyway, moving on, they raised the chick. And the chick, Sweet Tango, was born. This is not a picture of them. It's a picture of two other penguins with a chick. But it was back in 1998.
Before they had cameras.
Before they had cameras.
Yeah, I was going to say, these penguins look like they got a little thickened out by the act of parenting, which I guess that's something that parents, or human parents and penguin parents have in common.
I could have possibly comment.
It takes years to get your figure back.
They had to drop the gym membership to pay for the mortgage.
It's tough. It's really tough, big penguin parents. So, they raised Tango, and so inspiring was this beautiful gay love story that it was turned into a children's book. Banned in Florida. In fact, this is one of the most banned books in the USA.
Oh my God.
It's the future liberals want.
So before the book was banned, when it first came out in 2005, Roy and Silo had been in a relationship for about 6-7 years at this point. And right after this book came out, they broke up. Yeah, over a girl. I know. I know. So a new penguin moved from the San Diego Zoo, very exotic, exciting.
California
a bit of a
girls.
West Coast vibe.
Homewrecker.
And she paired up with Silo, and Roy was left alone to raise Tango. It's a very sad story. I know.
There's a real lost irony that Silo wasn't left alone.
Oh, God.
And I choked on my own words in a bad joke. All right.
I'd expect nothing less from you, honestly. So having said that, they were actually in good company, Roy and Silo. There were no fewer than 6 other gay penguin couples at Central Park Zoo alone, not to mention other penguin couples that were around. And also they were in such good company because it's estimated that between 1,000 and 1,500 other species also have homosexual love. Ooh. So, why is it? Woo, indeed. One person
Give it up for gay love.
Let's do that again. Between 1,000 and 1,500 other species have homosexual love.
Yeah!
So why is it that I keep hearing the argument that it's not natural? Why is it that it isn't better understood and better studied in the animal world? That's my overarching question here. Well, it has been. And way back in the mid-1830s, in 1834, entomologists were hard at work studying insects. And they were studying
hard
the
at
behavior.
work?
They were hard at work.
Oh.
Studying insects, and they were studying this little guy.
I mean, how could you not look at this guy and be horny?
Yeah. Those are antennae, not horns.
Got those lash extensions.
I mean, he's beautiful. His common names are he's sometimes known as the doodlebug. Anyone else know what the other name for this little guy is? The cockchafer.
Oh.
The cockchafer. So they were one of the first animals to be documented having homosexual sex. So 2 males were documented having sex together. Yay, fantastic. Everybody was talking about it. This guy, whose name I had to write on the slide.
I've seen this video before.
This guy, another entomologist in the late 1800s, Henri Gadou de Kerville. I'm sure I'm butchering his name. Doesn't matter. He drew this beautiful, beautiful drawing, realistic, of 2 scarab beetles, both males, having sex together, copulating. Fantastic, right? And he went as far as to opine, to suggest that the insects that were having this homosexual sex actually enjoyed it.
A bold theory.
A bold theory, and sadly, he was ridiculed by his peers. He was kind of told to be quiet, that it had no stock. And one of the reasons that he was told that there was no basis to this theory, after people had been talking about this kind of behavior for half a decade or more, was because Charles Darwin had published his theory of evolution. And it's kind of in between these 2 times. And what people were saying is, well, it makes no evolutionary sense. Because in Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, procreation, right, having more babies is the goal. So, like, it doesn't make any sense for males to be mating with males and females with females. What a ridiculous proposition. And this was called Darwin's paradox. And so really scientists stopped talking about it because they were just getting ridiculed and laughed at and told that they were wrong by their peers all the time. And in fact, the first person to, before I talk about these adorable monkeys, the first person to publish on penguin behavior, like, really kind of suppressed it. So in like I think this is from like 1914. So 1911, the first like homosexual penguin behavior was documented. And he kind of like really toned it down and tried to hide it a little bit. But in 1914, this guy, Gilbert Van Tassel Hamilton, I don't know why all the scientists I'm speaking about have really long names. So this guy was studying monkeys. He, don't ask me how, had like 20 Japanese macaques in his backyard. And as they did back then. And he observed them having lots of lovely homosexual sex. And he was curious as to why, so he studied their behavior.
So he jumped in.
Did he always?
Did not say. He did not say. That doesn't mean he didn't.
Did he always go to the bathhouse? I mean, like.
I don't actually know if this is a picture of his actual backyard. I couldn't find his original etchings from 1914, but
they're all censored.
They're all censored. But what he discovered was that the monkeys were actually using this behavior to diffuse tension in tense situations. So when they encountered a potential enemy, when there was some kind of argument or scuffle, they would resolve it with a nice little bit of homosexual sex. And so he suggested that this was very adaptive for them.
Could this work at Thanksgiving? Is this the... I don't...
Banned!
With your
Banned
family?
in Florida!
I think
No,
he
no,
could.
you know.
I think he could.
When you have your uncle who you have some tension with, that you're just like, hold the yams, Mom. We got to go diffuse some tension real quick.
We all have that uncle.
Yeah.
And he's like, give me those yams.
What the fuck are we talking about?
I'm completely derailed now. Derailed. So
As you were saying.
as I was saying, So then people started to think differently about Darwin's theory of evolution. Because Darwin's theory is not a theory of having more offspring. It's a theory of evolution. It suggests that the best thing to do for evolution is the best thing to do. And the best thing to do for evolution, my friends, is be bisexual. It's called the bisexual advantage.
Yeah. Give it up
That's
for
right.
bisexuality.
Woo! Yes, thank you! That was hard work,
I'll
but
edit
that's
that.
how it is. Anyway.
I'll edit that so it comes right after you say that. Don't worry, I got you.
We can just do it again if you like. It's called
Okay,
the
yeah,
bisexual advantage. It turns out that being bisexual makes you able to have multiple partners if you want to. Not every bisexual person has multiple partners, okay? Or monkey. It turns out that it actually made animals potentially more adaptive because they had community around them, because they had multiple partners, friends, monkeys, who were whatever members of their species, helping them to raise their young. And of course, the ultimate goal is not just to have young, but to have those young grow up to have more young, and so on and so on. So maybe there's something to this theory after all. I mean, I'm a little biased, but yes, there's something to this theory after all.
You're a little bi.
I'm a little biased. I'm a little biased. There's beautiful bisexual colors behind me. And this, I do want to, I keep saying people actually by mistake in this talk. I don't want to anthropomorphize too much, okay? We can't know if these penguins were gay or bi or queer because we don't know how they identify. We don't even know if they identify as male or female. Some zoos have stopped assigning gender to penguins because, let's face it, they all look the same. And they don't really seem to care. I mean, penguins will fuck a rock if given a chance. So they probably don't care too much about the gender. So I don't want to take this too far, but I do want to come back for a moment to our sad, sad story of our two penguins. So Silo, with his new lady friend, it turns out that Roy met another male penguin friend and had happiness after all. And Tango ended up in a lesbian relationship herself. So everybody lived happily ever after, and love is love.
Is love. Woo! All right, everybody, welcome back to the last portion of the show, and that is the trivia results. So tonight, our contestants, we missed all those slides. Our contestants answered these questions backstage, and you are going to find out how they did. With question 1, a recent genetic study linked modern herpes variants to the Bronze Age emergence of what human behavior, also known as bussing, in South Asia?
We're going with kissing on this.
Kissing is absolutely correct.
Yay!
Yeah.
Specifically, mouth-on-mouth kissing was the answer to this. So we're going to take a hard turn, and I'm going to tell you that herpes simplex virus 1 is estimated to be in
Now we're all in the mood for
67% of people. Oh, that really quieted 2/3 of you. So basically, there was a recent study that sampled what is known as ancient DNA, so from burial sites like around Europe and Asia. And in this paper, they had done all this sort of genetics work to try to pinpoint when in time these different like viral sequences diverged from each other. And then in like a throwaway line, they say this: the addition of lateral transmission as population density increased during the Bronze Age potentially linked to the introduction of new cultural practices such as the advent of sexual romantic kissing. Supplementary materials may have contributed to a shift in the dominant lineages which have continued to circulate to this day. So they're saying that the development of the practice of kissing that they think humans just started doing contributed to the spread and development of these now modern HSV1 lineages. Then a different group, a wife and husband team, one a seriologist and one ecologist, read that on a date and thought, that's bullshit. And they wrote a scathing rebuke. A scathing rebuke, I think it was in Science, because they happened to know that there was a much earlier recorded incidence of, in a completely different part of the world, of people kissing in a romantic context from Mesopotamia. And basically they called the previous study reductive, and they also wrote in their paper, The Ancient History of Kissing, not really what you want to hear from married people. A substantial corpus of overlooked evidence challenges this premise because lip kissing was documented in ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt from at least 2500 BCE onward. Because this behavior did not emerge abruptly or in a specific society, but appears to have been practiced in multiple ancient cultures over several millennia, the kiss cannot be regarded as a sudden biological trigger causing a spread of specific pathogens as recently proposed. And then they linked to that other paper. And the lesson is that if you are a geneticist and you ever try to have fun, and you put a cute little thing about how kissing or something in society might relate to your research, you're going to get actually'd by an adorable Danish science couple.
That couple definitely were a good match for each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you know what that is? Too much fussing over bussing.
You know what people love in their podcast audio is somebody going, ah. Question 2, true or false? About one of his failed inventions, Nikola Tesla lamented, quote, I loved her as a man loves a woman, and she loved me.
Rob mentioned that he knew this one right
take
away,
it
so
away,
we're going to
Rob.
leave it to him.
Yeah, and I think this is, for the astute listener, this may have come up once in a previous podcast episode in which Nikola Tesla did say this, but it was not about an invention, and in fact was about his most beloved pet, pigeon.
That's absolutely correct.
There you go. Yeah.
Yes. The full quote is, I loved that pigeon. I loved her as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. That pigeon was the joy of my life. If she needed me, nothing else mattered. It's still going. As long as I had her, there was a purpose in my life. He is reported to have said this in a conversation with his biographer, John J. O'Neill, and William L. Lawrence as a science writer at the New York Times.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
I was
to
gonna
that.
say,
It's
speaks
too
for itself.
beautiful. It's too
Is this
beautiful.
why, like, old-timey men refer to women as birds?
Wow. Maybe they weren't referring to women at all.
Maybe they weren't referring to women at all.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's so many pigeons in New York?
I thought they said they were flocking, but now I... Okay. It's pretty cool.
Hey.
Question 3. In 2007, a woman named Erica Labrie claimed to have married the Eiffel Tower, changing her name to Erica Eiffel. She claimed to have previously been in a decades-long relationship with what other European landmark?
Well, based on her taking the last name of her lovers, I don't know where this is in Europe, but a giant cheese.
Yeah, big Brie.
Yeah, that's right. No.
So we actually put, I think we went with the Leaning Tower, but we were arguing about all the landmarks. We went with Leaning Tower.
We also thought, because it didn't say the gender, we also thought it could have been been the Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, a less phallic object.
Less phallic,
Do other
much less
landmarks
phallic.
have gender?
Less phallic to you.
I
Fair.
mean, they might have gender.
Yeah,
they
we-
might not.
have we asked them?
More so than penguins, I
That's
think.
right.
Anyway.
I heard y'all reasoning based on her surname, and I thought to myself, damn, that would have been a great place to include a clue. And I did not do that. I'm so sorry. The answer was the Berlin Wall. So
No wonder
it gives
she
you
had
some
to
indication
remarry.
of how that relationship ended.
Their relationship
Goodness.
was crumbling.
I think my dad has a piece of her ex-husband.
I'd like a piece of her ex-husband. She said of her former lover, quote, the Berlin Wall is a masterpiece. I can feel how much he yearns to be loved.
I told you they had genders.
Of her new partner, she said, her structure is just amazing. You know, she's got subtle curves, you know. I will add that this is obviously, it's, read to be very funny, but Erica belongs to a group of people who call themselves objectum sexuals and who evidently do experience profoundly meaningful connection with objects. And like psychologists have, worked with, they're finding like a group of more and more people. Of course, it's incredibly rare, but they've been able to study them, and they don't find that like this is what's known as a paraphilia from like the psychological perspective. That it is like, as from their perspective, is like a very sincere, earnest, like deep romantic love with objects that they experience. And if nothing else, what I think was really interesting about that is that it highlights how much, of what we project onto our relationships is entirely a making of our own representation of what people are feeling in our own minds, right? Because we're not, and this is neuroscience. I'm actually looking directly at Paula. This is just neuroscientist talk. I mean,
There's no one else in the room.
because our brains, yes, thank you. Our brains create, they create the hallucination of reality, and it's of course influenced by like sensory stimuli, like seeing someone beautiful. But that those are fundamentally a creation of your own mind. And one of my favorite terms in neuroscience is meta representation, and that's like an internal state of someone else's mind is a representation, and you representing that state in your own mind is a meta representation, a representation of a representation, and that's all we can really ever know about people, right?
And
Right. I was just thinking that also if you fell in love with a wall, there'd be a much lower risk of herpes.
And Reagan was their therapist.
Tear down this wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He wanted to open communication.
Amazing. All right, question 4. Botanically speaking, the pokey things on roses are not technically thorns. What are they more accurately called?
Okay, so this one took me back to 7th grade French because I remember learning that the French word for thorn is épineuse, but I don't.
Epinus?
Yeah,
So it's a penis.
but with a French accent.
Epinus.
So some sort of Latin-y derived term along those lines would be what I would say, but I don't know.
But then I want to say, I have a story that I remember this by always because Noah likes to correct people when they call them thorns. And so once, my wife was like, "Oh, the rose thorn," and I was like, Noah would tell you.
I smacked the rose out of her hand.
Yeah. Noah would tell you. In fact, that's called a prickle.
That is absolutely correct.
And my wife said, "Well, Noah's a prickle."
And she is absolutely correct. If a couple people put prickle, that's amazing. I'm so glad you know that. And one team put prick, and I accepted that as well. That is absolutely right. Oh, I will also say that the difference between a spine, a thorn, and a prickle. Prickle, a sharp outgrowth from the epidermis or bark. Thorn, a stiff, woody, modified stem with a sharp point. A spine is a firm, slender, sharp-pointed structure representing a modified leaf. So next time you see a bunch of cacti, you can point to them and be like, look at all the leaves on that cactus, and get some weird looks. So question 5, which of the following, and I'm actually going to preface this by saying I'm going to ask our panelists here to come up and act them out, and then we can all collectively decide which one you think is most plausible. Which of the following... Let's go ahead.
We're all doing them together?
Yes,
simultaneously?
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Your own interpretations. Which of the following flamingo mating displays did I make up? A, the head flag. B, the wing salute. C, the bend and snap. Not everybody put that. Not everyone did. The twist and preen.
I think I just cracked my back.
Or the wing leg stretch. Yes, indeed, the one I made up, or at least that isn't the flamingo mating display, is the bend snap.
Damn.
That's from Legally Blonde.
We thought that would be too obvious.
Question 6. True or false, when snails mate, they transfer sperm by stabbing one another with their, quote, love darts.
We think it's true, we want it to be true.
Yeah. It needs to be true.
All right, now this one was a little cruel, I have to admit, because it is...
Are they called love prickles?
They're called...
And are they modified leaves?
Snails, when they mate, they do stab each other with their love darts, but it does not involve the transfer of sperm. This was the kind of question where you're punished for knowing something.
How
And
do
teach
you know?
to learn something from anywhere but fax machine.
Why are you getting involved with this?
Well, I have something to announce to everybody. If you wait 30 minutes, I'll get over there and show you. The answer is false. They do stab each other with love darts, but sperm transfer is a completely separate part of the process. Scientists used to think that these sort of like these calcium-rich love darts might be basically like gifting the receiving snail with a bunch of calcium, which the other snail could use to like make eggs with, basically, because calcium is really valuable. It does kind of like seem like shooting a cannonball at someone with an iron deficiency, not necessarily the most productive thing to do. But these things are fucking rad, okay? This is an impaled snail. An impaled snail. It's enormous compared to their head size. It does kind of look like a heart. I wanted to point that out. This is what they look like.
Jesus.
Blown up. And also, really interestingly about these is that sometimes there are snail species that look so similar from the outside that the only way to distinguish them is by looking at the incredible variety of the shapes of their love darts. For example, some of these harrowing, like spear tips that you could be stabbed with if you were into snail sex.
Can we
I don't even. Yeah.
Can we
Like
show
a duck
this?
penis.
Yeah. These are some of the cross sections of these, which are incredible. The structure. This is all scanning electron microscopy. Now, by the way,
Imagine that being your job, just
Yeah.
sitting in the electron microscope scanning those. Anyway.
Yeah.
imagine that being your husband.
And being like,
Don't kink shame.
Absolutely, you're right.
I can't believe there's no sperm in here.
I'll just wrap up to say that it's basically understood that now that the love darts are coated with basically what's called an allomone, which is this sort of chemical that makes the recipient more receptive to like retaining sperm that is transferred. So the snails have two different organs. They have a sperm digestion organ and a sperm retention organ, so normal. Basically, the snails that get stabbed with this, basically the digestion organ gets like closed off, the retention organ opens up. So question 7, Saint Valentine is the patron saint of all but which one of the following? Is it A, beekeepers, B, fainting, C, love, D, lesbians, or E, the city of Dublin?
I mean, we went through every possible one of these, and because we know you, we decided that the answer is C, love. Because we don't trust you. We did initially think lesbians.
We don't
because
trust
we
your
thought they
love.
wouldn't trust the Catholic Church, but no, we're going for love.
The answer is Dublin. He is the patron saint of love, beekeepers, and fainting. To be clear, he's anti-fainting. He is also the patron saint of lesbians. Now, by lesbians, I mean people from the island of Lesbos in Greece. Fuck you.
That's where it was.
This is the island from which we get the term lesbian because it's the island where the poet Sappho lived, and I think like 600 BC to around 600 BC. And from Sappho we get the term sapphic, and from her writings of erotic love between women we get the term lesbian and sapphic, etc. There is a really interesting story about the patron
Noah's
saint.
looking right at me again. I'm like, I know, Noah, I know.
There is an interesting story about the patron saint of Dublin, and that is Saint Kevin. I don't know why that's funny to me, but the miracle.
I think I've met him.
Oh yeah, Saint Kevin. You met him? Oh yeah. One of the miracles that got him sainted was a woman who was said to have fallen in love with Kevin due to his beauty, pursued him, and Kevin reputedly threw a handful of nettles in her face.
Not the modified leaves.
Yeah. Kathleen, and this is the best part, Kathleen realized the extent of Kevin's commitment to the Lord and became a nun, and that is the miracle that got him sainted, among others.
So the miracle is that Kevin was gay?
Yeah.
Count it.
That is a miracle.
Okay, so question 8, broken heart syndrome is the rapid failure of what organ in response to sudden emotional stress?
Okay, so it's not the heart, because as I understand it, broken heart syndrome is it's a stress response that simulates the symptoms of a heart attack, but it's I guess our vote is brain, but we were also postulating other parts of the body.
I thought spleen, just
Yeah.
just a lot of white blood cells and it pops.
The answer was
And
the
as
heart.
a neuroscientist,
Sorry, Paula.
So for 2 in a row, we tried to outthink you and it just completely
no,
bit
we
us in the
totally
ass.
failed.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, as a neuroscientist, I'm really embarrassed. Now I'm doubly embarrassed.
Yeah.
Look, good trivia should make you question your sanity. So this is also known as Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which is a rapid weakening of the heart muscle caused by a flood of catecholamines like adrenaline as a result of extreme stress, and that can basically stun the heart muscles. It basically ends up looking something like this. It's called Takotsubo not because it's someone's name, but because of the shape of the left atrium apparently looks like the shape of a octopus trap.
God.
And that's the Japanese for octopus pot, which I thought was kind of interesting. A study in 2021 found that there was a steady annual increase in the incidence of Takotsubo cardiomyopathy from 2006 to 2017. So please, everybody, check on your friends. We certainly all know what it's like to have our heart broken, but I didn't realize we were right to feel so attacked. They were literally trying to break our hearts. However, like after breakups, most Takotsubo patients recover fully, although also like a breakup, they occasionally relapse within the first year or so. That is the trivia. Thank you all so much. So how did you guys do?
We did not well.
Okay, well, you're in luck.
Who won?
You're in great company with everyone else. I misjudged it.
Nobody answered any of these, right?
I'm going to tell you the results of the trivia real quick, and then we got to finish up ASAP. So we have a tie for first place with 4 out of 8. Pudding Zoo and TPCB, everybody.
Hey!
Congratulations.
Way to go!
Woo! Yeah!
And here at Fax Machine, we don't only recognize the first place team, we also recognize the last place team, or as we like to call, the teams that learned the most. Jointly with 1 point, we have Roy and Silo's marriage counselors and EJ with 1 point apiece.
Nice.
So congratulations.
Well
I hope you'll
played.
spread all this knowledge. Well, folks, that's just about all we have for you tonight. Thank you so much to all of you for coming out. If you enjoyed this show, I hope you will follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Fax Machine Pod. And go listen to, rate, and subscribe to Fax Machine wherever you listen to podcasts. And also, please come hang out with us at the after party. We'd love to meet y'all. And basically, if you enjoyed this show, we'd like to demand an explanation. So, Adam, is there anything you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
Not particularly. I made a web series a couple years ago where I did chemistry with drag queens called Atoms and Bonds that you are more than welcome to check out. It still exists.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, follow me on Twitter where I yell about stuff.
Yay!
Nice.
And Paula, how about you?
Yeah, I would like to plug Nerd Night has a book coming out. I am in the book. There is an adorable cartoon of me in the book being very hungover. I'm going to be talking about how I cured my personal hangover. It's not going to help you, but it's going to be funny. Then also, what else am I doing? Oh, I'm teaching science comedy here on April 7th. If you are excited about using comedy to make your science presentations more exciting and interesting, you can do that. And also, I am doing a Story Collider shows all the time at Caveat. The next one's April 29th. True personal stories about science. Thank you, whoever clapped. Yay! That's really cool. And also, if you follow me on my social media, that'd be great, because then you can vote for my cat. Don't forget to vote for my cat, okay? Thank you so much.
We'll show you the QR code at the after party.
Nice.
All right, so please give it up for our guests one more time, Adam Rosenzweig and Dr. Paula Croxson. Myself, Noah, Rob, right there, and Em, who we do this show right here at Caveat the third Thursday of every month. So that means our next show is Thursday, March 21st at 7 p.m. right here at Caveat. So join us for a science comedy show and science trivia showdown loosely inspired by the brain. So more neuroscientists. We will be joined by 2 neuroscientists and science communicators, Dr. Chloe Lopez-Lee and Dr. Devin Collins. It's going to be a really fun show. From all of us here at Fax Machine, I know that we just met tonight, and this might be crazy, but we hope it's not too soon to say that we love you and let's move in together. Thank you all so much for coming, and see you next month.